D-Lo 404 Boxing. Shout out to the LDBC. So, we've all by now heard about Deontay Wilder meeting with Dazn. We've heard different variations of what exactly was offered. The last thing that I heard, and it's all I'll go on, it's the last thing I heard, and I was actually on 78 Sports TV's live chat last night. Shout out to 78 Sports TV, the general. And I want to say Carl Burrell, CB Sports TV. Shout out to CB Sports TV. He was actually the first one to come in and say this, but I saw several other people drop it also, saying that they saw it on the Zone site, maybe, that the actual offer for Deontay Wilder was $100 million over 3 fights, or somewhere along in there. It was like basically they were offering somewhere in the neighborhood of $20 million for Dominic Brazil and $40 million apiece for 2 other fights. And I think one of the fights that was mentioned was, and this wasn't something they said on the chat. This is something that I actually saw on another chat. I can't remember who I was on, but anyway, they were talking about Wladimir. Oh, I was on KQKC, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken. Shout out to KQKC. But they actually was saying that Wladimir Klitschko is one of the names that was mentioned. And that Wladimir is one of the guys that's the Zone is trying to get signed to some fights, and that he would be a potential opponent for Deontay Wilder. And it just got me to thinking. We saw Wladimir Klitschko against Tyson Fury. I want to say that was 2015. I may be wrong. Maybe it was 2016. I think it was 2015 though. And we saw him just get utterly dominated. Matter of fact, let me back up. We saw Wladimir Klitschko against Brian Jennings before the Tyson Fury fight, where Wladimir Klitschko looked a little slow as far as being able to get his shots off, being able to really pull the trigger, so to speak. He was a little slow to pull the trigger against Brian Jennings. Brian Jennings was able to get in good work, turn Klitschko, move him how he wants to, but ultimately Klitschko was just too big, had too much range for him. And Klitschko got the decision, but I can tell you that was a very lackluster performance by Wladimir Klitschko. It was one that I could envision if the great Manny Stewart, rest in peace, Manny Stewart, was still in his corner. I could see and hear Manny Stewart going ballistic at Wladimir Klitschko about not being able to close the show, about not being aggressive enough, because I've seen that before when Vladimir fought Sultan Ibragimov at I think it was at Madison Square Garden, where Emmanuel just gave him the business because Vladimir was playing it safe. Just jab, 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 hold, jab, turn, jab, and Emmanuel Stewart, he loves knockout. Like Emmanuel Stewart said, he always said, knockout sell. But anyway, so we saw Klitschko in the Brian Jennings fight where he had a subpar performance. And honestly, Klitschko looked right for the picking against Brian Jennings. Jennings just wasn't the right opponent to be able to do it. And then we saw him face Tyson Fury in his very next fight, and we saw him get utterly outboxed and just look lost in the ring and just got dominated, where he probably won 3 rounds if you're being generous on the scorecards. And at that point, that's when he was dethroned. That's when he lost his titles, and he tried to come back for the rematch against Fury right away. And then Fury had his issues, and the rematch never happened. And Wladimir Klitschko pretty much just, went away from boxing. He pretty much left the sport. And then we didn't see him again for some 19 months, maybe, close enough to say 2 years, when he came back and fought Joshua, and he looked a whole lot better in that Joshua fight than he did in his previous 2 outings. You know, we saw how the fight played out, and I'll just fast forward to it. We saw him get stopped at the very end. He was 1 round away from going the distance, but we saw him get stopped in the 11th. He was stopped on his feet. He wasn't knocked out, you know, like he has been against some other opponents, just completely knocked out, but he was stopped on his feet. And now he's taken another, I think it's been another 2 years, and they're talking about him coming back on the Dazn and putting him in there with guys like Deontay Wilder. And I just don't think that's a good game plan for Vlad. And trust me, I'm a big Klitschko fan. I was a fan of both of them. I was a bigger fan of Vitaly than Wladimir. And more so, it was just because of the temperament. I thought Vitaly was a mean fighter who had a killer instinct in the ring, and he went out there to take your head off. And he wasn't afraid to get in the trenches. He wasn't afraid to engage. He just, you know, he trusted his ability. So I preferred him over the two. But I was a big fan of both guys. But I will tell you, I think that I honestly think it's time for Wladimir to hang him up. I mean, I think he needs to stop with these comebacks and you know, maybe do what his brother's doing, get into politics or something. But at some point, you got to walk away from the sport. Keep coming back for these big paydays, and you know, maybe I would feel different if I saw Wladimir Klitschko come in against a softer touch before getting in there against a killer like Deontay Wilder. But you know, I just don't think these long layoffs and then coming back going right into an upper echelon type fight bodes well for Wladimir Klitschko. We saw how it played out for him against Anthony Joshua. He was fresh for, you know, first part of the fight, but he also got dropped early in the fight as well. So, you know, it's just one of them things where, you know, it may be that, yes, the layoff does him some good as far as rest, but at the same time, you lose sharpness, and you know what I'm saying, in the ring, because there's nothing like in-ring experience. You know, there's nothing like being in actual fights to get you ready for that big fight. But, you know, it's just my take on it. I'm starting to wonder if someone needs to save Wladimir Klitschko from himself. And maybe this is just what they want, the wishes of the Dazn, but Wladimir may not be interested in it. I haven't heard him come out. I mean, I've been hearing for some months rumors about Wladimir Klitschko coming back, even as an opponent for Dillian White not long ago. But I've never heard Wladimir Klitschko come out and say, yes, I'm coming back. But I've also never heard him come out and say that he's retired, he's done boxing. So I'm eager to see how it plays out, and it'd be real interesting to see how he moves and how this whole thing shakes out. But I think with Wladimir Klitschko, if the Dazn offers him enough money, or whoever offers him enough money, I think he's willing to fight anybody. And I think he's willing to fight anyone directly off of his retirement or whatever, his hiatus, without getting in there with a tune-up fight first. I think he's that confident in himself. And for a guy that reigned supreme over the heavyweight division as long as he did, we don't have to wonder where that confidence comes from. But we'll see how it goes. This is D-Lo 404 Boxing. Again, shout out to the LDBC. Shout out to my subs. You hadn't subbed to the channel, I said please subscribe. Hit that bell icon. Drop a comment in the comment section. Hit that like button for me. I'm out of here. Peace.